Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of the Magic and Daily Endurance. Today I have Granden Bertand. No, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Well, my name's Granden Bertrand.
Oh, he just told me, and I was like, I cannot say that. Okay, so Granden is actually this episode is going to be unique because he has been in ceremony with myself and another facilitator quite a few times. And the reason I wanted him on was because I've personally seen the transformation within him. So I would love to share the story and what he's doing with the world. So Granden, welcome to the Magic and Daily Endurance.
Well, thank you, Jess. It's good to be here.
I'm so excited. So everybody that comes on the podcast, I always ask them morning rituals, routines. Do you have any, and would you love to share?
I sure can. I think that my morning rituals or just rituals in general have become really more important since we've been doing ceremony, which has almost been a year now, I guess, since we did our first one together. Uh, I think I do some breath work in the morning after I wake up. We'll go out and probably do a half an hour, 45 minutes of that, whether it's like Wim Hof style or box breathing or two-part breathing, anything like that is nice to mix it up. The Wim Hof stuff was really good for me because it was easy to learn and easy to get into. And I ended up being pretty good at it. So that kind of stuck around. So that's definitely something that I try to do every day. And then we'll do probably some cold exposure usually. Lately, the last few weeks, that's been kind of off and on. Haven't been really feeling it. But the cold exposure is another thing that came up after I think the second ceremony we did in September. That one is kind of when I started really getting into it every day or every other day. So that's become something that's kind of cemented in my morning routines, or at least my daily routine. I try to get there all the time. I started doing ice dips in February. That was
Ooh.
pretty awesome. I'm really proud of myself for doing that because water was not always something that I wanted to get into, whether it was warm or not. And so being in the middle of winter and starting doing ice dips was pretty intense, but I really do enjoy it. It's really nice to be able to get out there and be calm in that environment. So cold exposure has really been something that's helped in my routines. And then just some light exercise, going through some health issues right now. So the exercise, which I hope would be more intense, has been more like just doing planks and maybe some push-ups once in a while. I got into doing headstands, so I can hold a headstand for pretty long. So I'll do that maybe. Just something to keep it a little bit more entertaining and fun, because I know my life's been a lot of kind of regimented and seriousness. So it's kind of interesting to play around with some of these different types of exercises too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then the rest of my day is like walking dogs. That's super important. She likes to get out. We try to be out in nature for a good hour, hour and a half. Make sure that we get that um, time out in nature too, because that really can reset the system. Even if you're having a rough morning, it's kind of hard to have a bad day after you get out in the woods and go walk by the creek. It's pretty nice that that's all out our front door too.
Yeah, because you're in BC.
Yeah, right. Yeah, in
Yeah.
Kimberley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever take off your shoes when you're walking in the woods?
Yeah, not as much as we used to. I think that when I found out the question you asked to start off your podcast, which is really cool, by the way, it kind of made me think about how I take the word ritual lately, because ritual's been kind of more important. But
Mhm.
now that I kind of think about it, we've kind of always had a ritual in our household when we've been doing better, right? Like when we've been running when we took up running. It was a ritual. You had to eat good, you had to go into your runs in every day, so you had to plan around that. And we were feeling better and doing better as a family, because we had those rituals set in, whether we thought they were rituals or not. It's just something that you do every day. That's pretty much what makes up a ritual.
Mhm.
But the big impact has been learning how to make that important and know that it's important, and like not just going out and running because you're like, oh, I need to be healthy, so let's go out and run because that's the only thing that's going to make me healthy. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice to see that we're being more mindful about how we use our energy and how we move forward. So
Mhm.
it's been really good.
So what's been the biggest impact and change in your life since you started implementing your morning ritual?
Uh, Probably the awareness of my mentality in the morning.
Mhm.
I think that having all the health issues that I've had, you just get up and it's off right from the moment you open your eyes, because you don't have time to deal with that stuff. It's not going away, so why even deal with it? Just eat as well as you can for the day, and everything else is going to be fine. I think that really uh, asking, like, why am I doing this in the morning? Why am I doing my breath work in the morning? Why do I smoke cannabis? Why do I, right? I think you had a podcast there about conscious cannabis, the last one
Mhm.
I hear you had out. Really good, really hit home with me. I definitely something through learning through ceremony, was integrating ceremony into like almost your everyday life, right? Where when, like, I have a little altar downstairs, that's for like where I smoke my weed.
Mhm.
And why not? You draw a card, you get set, you light a candle, you burn some incense, burn some sage if you want to, and then really tap in. So I think that's what's really impacted things, has just been that awareness to shift in the morning, right?
Mhm.
To sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to do this breath work because I'm in a shitty mood. And why am I in a shitty mood? Well, let's do some breath work meditation and find out. Like, let's sit
Mhm.
with it instead of turning it off all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's been the biggest impact in my life as well. It's like, what is going on? And then sitting with yourself in silence is like, it's a game changer, because then, like, your thoughts, they're going to come through. Even if the people that can shut off their thoughts, good for you. But those things
Right?
that come up, like, how do
You're
you do that?
amazing.
Like, right? Can you teach me? But then, like, seeing what is coming up within that silence, within that empty space, it's just like, oh, then you get more clarity, right? And you're like, okay, okay, right, cool. So you just mentioned some health issues. So are you open to sharing? And like, is this what brought you into like the ceremonies that we do together? And if you care to share.
Of course I'll share. You asked, so I'll share.
Well, I want to make sure.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate that too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in 2004, and in 2005, I had quit my job. I had bought a house. I had started a new job, and things were like relatively going okay. I think it was like my second or third week of shifts, and I had a pretty bad, I don't even know what you want to call it, relapse. Um, it's not relapse, but yeah, I had a pretty big flare up. There we go.
Mhm.
And I kept going to work. I had two more night shifts to do after it started, and I was basically like, I'm not going to hold anything back here, but I was like pooping blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. And I was starting to lose weight, and so I kept on going to work for the two night shifts. And then after my last night shift, I went and walked over to my mom's house and asked her to drive me to the hospital, which was in Calgary because we lived in Elkford at the time.
Okay.
So she drove me up to Calgary, and they brought me in and put me on like IV steroids for a week and a half, and they couldn't get under control. So we chose to have my colon removed. And then a couple months after that, they hooked everything else that was left up back in. I had an ostomy for 3 months. That was also a pretty dark time for me.
Mm.
But the more I look back on it, I think ceremonies helped with this too, is that those times aren't as dark anymore. They still are like super challenging. Um, but I'm starting to remember like more of the positive sides. The people that were around, things that my parents did for me, stuff like that, right? So it's more like that's becoming less of a heartache and more of a like, hey man, you got through it and there were people behind you then. So, whatever you're going through now, there's still people behind you.
Hmm.
Yeah. So then after that, we just I had all the surgeries done and I was cured. Even though you're not really
Air
cured from, right?
quotations.
And I just went back to eating crap and drinking lots of Coke and like not doing anything really bad, just having a pretty shitty diet and not really taking care of my mental side of things.
Hmm.
Just being a kid. That's what like young 20s is like. And then yeah, after that, got married, kind of got our acting gear together. I think that support at the time was really important. Lost a bunch of weight. At my biggest, I think I was 235, went down to when we were running, I was 142 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, I lost like almost 90 pounds of weight in a year and a half or so, 2 years. We went from not being runners to running ultra marathon.
Wow.
Yeah, I ran 100 kilometers in 24 hours,
Oh,
right? Yeah, with all these health issues, like
yeah.
it was just like, well, let's go do it. Let's see what happens. And like we had changed our eating. Like it started with our eating, but I think we learned some like pretty good habits with our eating back then. But it took like, man, there's not as many books out then as there is now that are like, oh, hey, just do this, or hey, just do that, or hey, this is easy to
Hmm.
find. Um, Back then I remember it being a pretty big struggle. So like you do anything, it just was like an elimination diet, just stop pretty much everything and then add things back a little bit at a time and be like,
Hmm.
nope, that's no good. Nope, that's no good. Let's keep this off the list and this off the list.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so it's been a pretty challenging time, but it's made me who I am today, so I can't complain with that, right?
Yeah.
Um, Definitely some pretty rough times mentally. Uh, just yeah, it's a lot to go through when you just try to shut that off every day for years on end, right?
Hmm.
Um, I ended up doing a lot of cool things work-wise too. I'm a certified professional bus operator. I got that when I was in Edmonton just before we left. So that
Cool.
was pretty cool. Right? It's like a national designation that they went
Wow.
through. Yeah, it's super cool because I've been driving most of my life. It's usually what I did for work, even when I had all these like poop issues. So you can imagine what like trying to pull a semi to the side of the road and jump out and go to the bathroom in the ditch is
I'll be
like,
right back.
right?
I'll be
Yeah,
right
yeah.
back.
No problem. Stop in like a couple hundred feet. It's no problem. Fully loaded. Yeah. Try to handle that stress. You can handle anything. Um,
Yep. Mm.
yeah. So yeah, that was cool. I've taught stuff, facilitated stuff for TELUS at my job. That was really cool. Built labs. I've been successful, but just haven't really given my time to, or given myself the time to sit and like give yourself the pat on the back without feeling like you're being selfish or that
Hmm.
you're, having this overinflated ego head. Because
Mm.
none of that stuff, like at the end of the day, really matters. But you should be like, you should be proud of what you do. Like if you're not proud of what you do, you're not doing the right things, man.
Hmm.
Like I'm sure you're you smile pretty hard when you see people that you've helped like get through that wall, or
Mm-hmm.
you've seen the development go through, and you've had a part to play in that. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like, hey, this is I had a part in that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's pretty cool. I just don't think that I've always used the right words to portray that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So within your health issues, is that what brought you into the mushroom ceremonies?
I would say like 70% that, and 30% like just getting asked out of the blue, out of the blue, like, hey, you want to go do something like this? Okay. I had experimented a little bit with plant medicine before, specifically with mushrooms. About a year prior, this is just after I went on disability, and I had to get like, oh crap, what was it, 11 or 12 vaccines in 3 or 4 months. It was
Oh, wow.
terrible. It was rough. Just to go on some other drug that I have to inject myself
Oh,
with
no.
every week now. Super fun. Yeah, so when going through that, that was pretty hard mentally, because I was always, um, you got to be working, you got to be producing, you got to be productive. If you're just sitting at home, you're not productive, because that's not helping anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So those first couple months were pretty rough. And I started like reading about psilocybin, and getting like as much kind of information as whatever. I hate saying research, because that seems to be like the trendy thing, to be like, oh, you didn't do any research. You didn't actually go out and do that. I'm like, dude, what else do you call it then? I read things on the internet, okay? Um,
Dr. Google.
right? Yeah. So it was, uh, doing all the reading on it was really impactful, because you start finding like the success stories that
Mm-hmm.
are starting to come out, and being like, oh man, I did one dose and it was all I needed. Or I did a dose, and then hey, I wait a week, and then I do another one, and then I do another one. So I got some, and did a couple like 3 or 4 gram doses on my own at home, which is
Mm-hmm.
not the best way. Um, but it was okay. Made my tea, and it was all right. It was a good experience, but like nothing compared to being in ceremony. Like even if you were to take away the crystal bowls, and take away the breath work and the drumming and the singing, and just have like somebody playing music and watching over you, it would be 100% different. But
Mm-hmm.
when you add in the breath work and the bowls and the drums and the singing and the like intense support that you get from you guys,
Mm-hmm.
it's night and day. um
Mm-hmm.
you might get a little bit of like, oh, this is awesome, like I have a really good experience, and now I'm open to more things. Being in ceremony was yeah, like a game changer.
What was the biggest part of, like, is it the facilitators? Is it the environment? Like, what was the biggest, like, game changer?
um I think that it came in for me. It came in little steps. So like the first round that we did, um, was I think I got more impact from the breath work, because that was like the first time that breath work clicked, and was like, oh hey, this is good. I haven't even taken the tea yet, and this is, I feel this, like this is what they're talking about in all those books I've read.
Yeah.
And that was really good. So I'm really glad that Tyrone was there for that one.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of opened my eyes to that. But like mentally, like kind of cracking that like deep, I don't know, shadow open,
Hmm.
wasn't until like the I would probably say the second or third ceremony that we did. And I think partially because it was like, I don't, it was like you were easing into it. Like the first one was like, oh hey, these are really cool, like you've seen a bunch of colors and movement in the
Mm-hmm.
colors, and you have a lot of support, and it was more of like a gentle, hey, everything's going to be okay. Your guts aren't going to explode on you. You're supported by these people around you. And then when the second and third ceremonies, the fact that we had the facilitators, the
Mm.
same facilitators for those ones, it was just like you didn't even have to take that time to get to feel centered and safe. You
Mm-hmm.
just you already knew it was this is fine. Just concentrate on drinking your tea and setting your intention, and that made the like the process in air quotation marks um so much so much more like you could get to those impactful moments quickly
Mm-hmm.
and be okay with whatever came up.
Mm-hmm.
Like by the time we moved locations to the yurt,
Mm.
the yurt itself is a magical place,
It
like
is.
uh, amazing.
Yeah.
And by the time we moved there, I think that the yurt just made it feel more like you have family in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not that I didn't feel that at the other location, but it was when it started getting to like that five or six or eight. We had 11 people in the yurt plus
Mm-hmm.
facilitators. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was a big group with lots of energies, lots of different energies. And I think that I don't know, is it because it's round and has a peak on top? Who knows?
Yeah.
You know that energy just seemed to flow and just help everybody get through their stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that it was a combination of things. Um, but I think that the just having the same facilitators was probably the most impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just so much easier to get into that place, whether it was I got to go in and visit my shadow, or whether it's like, hey man, you're doing awesome and you're having a great time, and this is going to be a good trip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was just that sense of feeling safe and that space held for you.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you already know, like you've built that trust because you've been in that scenario, in that state before. So it's like, okay, last time I was okay. So now this time I know I'm going to be okay. And now it's like, okay, the last two times I was okay. And now I can go like a little bit more deeper. It's like sticking with the same doctor, the same coach, or like the same personal trainer, right? Like the more you
100%.
get to know them, the more you're like, I know this person's got me. And like I could shit my pants right now and they're not going to give a shit. So, like,
Right? Yeah. It was good. And by the like, oh, how many have we done? We've done four together, and I've done five in total.
mm-hmm,
You know, by the fourth one, I think it was a lot easier to move through the walls, right? Like you come up to something, you're like, oh, this is scary. Like I feel fear, but then you're like, oh, why? Like why do I feel this?
yeah.
Like you know, and then you can kind of go a little deeper into it, and it's way more impactful. Like I read a lot about like the ancient cultures and how they use like psychedelics and whatnot, and it's impressive because it was always almost always used under like some sort of ceremony
Mm,
or ritual. And I think like that even helps with cannabis. With like I try to do the same thing when I have to inject myself with my medicine
mm-hmm,
um, from the doctor. You make it into a like I'm choosing to do this,
mm-hmm,
right? Like I think that came in the last one that we did. That was the biggest takeaway from that one was like you choose to do like everything that you do, right? Like
mm-hmm.
I don't like it's really hard for me to get around the thing of like I'm choosing to be sick right now. That one's tough for me to get. So I can like totally relate with somebody who's like, oh no, I didn't choose to do this. Well, yeah,
Right?
right? You don't really want to hear it. But yeah, and just being okay with that, right? I
Mm,
think that comes to that self-love. Like I think I really that's a challenge for me, a struggle for me.
mm-hmm,
And that's what like not just mushrooms, not plant medicine, but like ceremony and that holding space, people holding space for you, you not necessarily holding space, but you, like, we hold space for you guys too.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in ceremony, I just feel like that's really been um maybe something that my soul's been lacking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has been like just that like, hey, people are here, we're just all here to be one and be happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the line that came out of the last one, I was like, we're all just starlight smiling at other stars shining back at us, like just doing their own thing, right? So like, you're shining bright because you see that other thing shining bright, and then that thing's shining bright because it sees you shining bright, and you're like, yes, we live in a good world, right?
Yeah. Mirrors, reflections of one another. Mm-hmm. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, because like I know sound bowls and I know mushrooms, your experience, because you drink the tea, the plant medicine, and then you lay down and the bowls start playing. So within your experience, what has that been like, and has it shifted and changed over the 4 ceremonies that we've done together?
Yep, definitely shifted and changed. As I said, the breath work was probably most impactful on the first one.
Oh yeah.
The second and then third, well, they just kept on getting better. Like, uh, I don't know if your sound bowl playing is getting better or if it just is getting more impactful to me.
Yeah.
Either one, congratulations. It was
Oh, thanks.
awesome. Yeah, the sound bowls really help. Like after you lay down and you finish your tea and you start listening to these frequencies coming out, it just it's just safe.
Mm,
Like I don't know really, like I don't know really how else to say it, right?
yeah.
It's just it makes it grounds you. It makes you like feel like you're getting a big hug,
Mm,
right? It doesn't just like I really like
mm-hmm.
music, like regular everyday music. But
Mm-hmm.
like sound bowls, being in the room with somebody playing like really nice sound bowls, amazing. Like it's almost like having, well, it's very similar to having tuning forks that they place
Mm,
on your like third eye
mm-hmm.
areas and stuff. Those are pretty good, but yeah, if you got somebody good on sound bowls like yourself, and you get that little like kick up with mushrooms, it just, and if you set your intention properly,
Yeah.
ooh, yeah, that's fantastic.
I'd love to talk about that more, like setting your intention, because that's something I emphasize, like even in my everyday sound baths. So with the intention that you have going in, what has changed within like your own body throughout like the past, I guess, almost year that we've been doing these?
Yeah. Um, I think at the intention setting part of it didn't, like, I always set an intention beforehand, even from the first one. I thought that was important. I really connected with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it wasn't until a couple into it that I kind of sat down and was like, I'm gonna try and follow like everything, because we even get like a nice little like pre-ceremony letter saying, hey, you might want to follow some of these little rules and you might have a better trip.
Mm,
So I started doing that and like off of cannabis for the week and off of my most of my meds and stuff that we okayed with my doctor and all that kind of fun stuff, which was actually really cool to see that there was a facilitator out there that actually cared about that stuff.
oh,
I'm like, no,
good.
let me check about this. And it's like, I got somebody I know I can check on. And it's okay, awesome. This makes me feel even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, off the stuff that I needed to go off of. That was great. And then just starting to journal the week before
Mm,
was really important with the intention. Um, and it really made the ceremony, like after, like, well, when you're influenced by the mushrooms, it really made it uh, clear. Like I think you get, or not you guys, but like, what's the wording? You may not always get what you want, but you'll definitely get what you need, right?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It makes that process easier.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because then you can just kind of be back, like lean back on your intention and whatever it was. Like I think the first couple rounds we did, I was more of like, oh hey, I'll just go with this. I just want to flow. I don't want to be in control anymore.
Mm.
You know, but those ones, they were still impactful ceremonies. The ceremonies were excellent. Like everything was awesome about it. But I didn't walk away like like really changed where I felt I needed to be changed, like mind
Mm.
wise. And it wasn't until I really started putting more intention into what I was doing the few days before and the few days afterwards that it really started to be like, oh, hey, I know what this feels like, right? We can do this. We can continue to like keep on taking this on,
Mm-hmm.
and that's helped with my ability. Like, I don't think that it's. I'm not going to go to anybody and be like, "Oh, hey, it's cured my disease. All you have to do is
Right.
just do some breathing and go trip out on some mushrooms, and everything will be okay." I'm not going to say that by
Right.
any means, but it has helped me deal with those challenging situations with a softer, more compassionate tone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that changes my day,
Mm.
right? I can be in the middle of the day and be having a crappy attitude about something, and I can fly a little bit off the handle, and it's almost like immediately afterwards that I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, what's going on up there? Right? Did you push it a little much yesterday? How was your sleep last night? What did you eat in the last 12 hours? You
Yeah.
know, you go through these things that you're like, oh, yeah, no, I guess I haven't eaten anything in a while. And I already went on a walk and you're like, oh, just pause. Sorry,
Yeah.
family. I'm going to go eat something. I'll be right back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or whatever is the stressor at the time.
Yeah.
So that's been like probably the biggest thing with setting those intentions. Learning to set those intentions has
Mm-hmm.
changed over to my daily life of being more aware of in the moment, right? Because
Mm.
that's when you need it the most, is when you're being tested, when you have those high stress moments. You don't want to be freaking out, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be going into those, what's the word you use, saboteur moments, right?
Yeah.
And you want to be able to not necessarily control them, but flow with them,
Mm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't, that would be exhausting for me to have. I tried controlling my outer shit for all the time, and that doesn't work. You just got to let it fly sometimes,
Yeah.
right? And now it's just, you just meet it. You go, yeah, that sucked. I'm sorry. You
Mm-hmm.
like take yourself out of the situation and find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, intention's been good.
Yeah, I love that because like it is in every single thing that you do, even the coffee that you're making in the morning, the food that you're eating, the water that you're drinking. Like this morning, literally, I like put some lemon and some salt in my spring water and I'm drinking it. And I was just like, what is this?
So water, you bring up water. So like years ago when we changed our eating habits and stuff,
Yeah.
we went off of tap water and was like,
Mm,
no, we're not drinking tap water. We're gonna drink filtered water, and we got this really good filter. And you know what? We noticed a difference.
right?
We moved to the mountains. Our water filter didn't fit in our kitchen, so we got rid of the water filter and just drank tap water.
Yeah.
It's like what is that? A turtle being in a hot pot. If you heat it up enough, it'll just sit there until it boils.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got used to the water. We moved to Kimberley. Finally had a place that had room for our water filter again. Bought a new one, threw it up, and we're like, not even like I think it was days, but I'm gonna say not even a week later. Myra
Right?
came home and she's like, I had to drink the water at work. Never again. I'm like, oh, let me try. You go and drink tap water. We supposedly have pretty good tap water, and you're like,
Oh,
oh yeah, no, this is garbage. Like, yeah, I see why people go up and get it at the spring, like 10
mm-hmm.
minutes out of town.
Yeah,
Yeah,
findaspring.com for anybody that's curious. They are all over the place. And yeah, I've been drinking spring water for 2 years, besides when I lived in Costa Rica. And then the Costa Rica water was like, everyone's like, oh no, it's fine. And it tasted fine. But then I was like, I think calcium buildup is what somebody told me. So it'll like go into your system and it'll something to do with calcium. And I was like, okay, I'll just start buying filtered water because that's like if we are what 70% water and we're drinking stuff that is full of who knows what, like I no. Like the water you drink is so, so important. Yeah.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I don't
Yeah.
know why we went so long. Well, I do know because we didn't have, like, how stupid is that? Well, we don't have room for it, so we're going to get rid of it and not replace it. And we're just going to drink water, which we know kind of like doesn't make you feel the greatest, but it doesn't really like make you feel the worst either. So
Right.
it's like that really terrible medium that you just kind of want to stay out of because it's so easy to get trapped in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even people that are like, well, it's filtered from my fridge. I'm like, well, that's better than tap water. And at the same time, what is the filter? Like what is it doing? Have you tested the water? Do you know? Do you actually know what you're putting in your body? That
Yeah.
is like the biggest key. Did you have to change your diet when you found out about all your health issues?
Yeah.
Like besides the
Well,
elimination, like what did that look like?
from my memory, which is kind of crappy, but like this is how I remember it. Like I went in and had surgery. I remember them like putting pamphlets down like on your bed and being like, yeah, here's all of this like information. And it was like everything was way overwhelming at the time,
I bet.
which like I don't even just that's the only word I have for it is overwhelming.
Mm.
But the biggest one that stood out was like some church group or something that was like, oh, hey, we have support groups and we meet every Wednesday. And I'm like, why did that one stick out in my head? Never went to them, but like totally now, the way I look at things, definitely go to a support group if I would have had surgery or would have gone if I go through anything like this at the start. Yeah, absolutely go
Mm-hmm.
to support group. Because man, there's just other people going through the same stuff you're going through.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so why wouldn't you go? Like it
Yeah.
just makes things so much easier.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I went back to eating like crap. Um,
Like
uh,
define crap, like junk food and like
oh yeah,
McDonald's or
McDonald's all the time. Like, dude, do you not remember like what 35 or 45 cent cheeseburgers?
oh yeah.
Like we used to get like the big freaking bag, like the grease would be like making the bag fall out the bottom. It was so like awesome, but not so awesome, right? Um,
I got
yeah,
10 meals for $5.
yeah. It's like, we're gonna just go. We're gonna eat it all. It's awesome. Yeah, it's and not taking care of yourself. Like I didn't do any like I didn't start doing air quotation drugs
Mm,
until geez, I moved to the mountains.
mm,
Right. I was always it was always just like a no, 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 it's fine. But I drank because drinking's okay. Alcohol's
right.
cool. Got
Alcohol's
wasted all
cool.
the time, but yeah, and drank a lot of pop. Coca-Cola was definitely like my energy
Mm,
drink.
mm-hmm,
Um, Shortly, yeah, I was probably yeah, I was drinking energy drinks at that time. And it was just like wreaking havoc on me and just turning that blind eye, right? Like,
mm-hmm,
nope, don't have time to deal with this. I'm just gonna suck another one back and make it another couple hours. Perfect.
mm-hmm,
Yay, I'm
mm-hmm,
23, or however old I was. And then, yeah, that went on for a few years. And then I got back together with my wife now, and we got married after whatever, what was it, 2009? We got married. I was like 235 pounds, right? So we had to, I didn't want to be on the pharmaceuticals anymore because they weren't
mm,
making me feel any better. And they were making
mm-hmm,
like, okay, we'll give you this, that'll make this happen. And then we'll give you this to help with this happening, but that's going to cause this to happen. So we need to make you do this. And I'm just like, you guys, this is crazy. There has to be a better way.
right.
Yeah. So we started reading up a lot, and we changed our diet, man. We've been vegetarian, we've been vegan, we've been raw. We've sprouted our own like beans and stuff to make our food with.
Mm,
Like we were like health nuts and running at the time. Like we started running and just changing into a healthier lifestyle. And like by and far out of everything that I have done over the last 18, however many, 19 years, um, I think that the like daily routine
Mm,
of some sort of exercise and some sort of mindful eating
mm,
throughout the day made the biggest difference. Am I
mhm,
cured? No. Is it manageable? Well, yes, I'm not working right now, which is totally awesome,
mhm,
because that takes away a large amount of stress. Um, but it just that that ability to connect with what you're doing and what you're putting in your body and what you're doing to yourself, and
mhm,
how that makes you feel, I think is really important. And it's something that I like didn't really connect this with ritual and like ceremony stuff until we started doing ceremony. But I remember telling my physiotherapist too at the time, I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably not going to do your exercises that you tell me to do, because when we get to a certain point, you keep on adding more. And
mm,
then I'm doing 45 minutes to an hour of exertion, and I'm not getting anywhere.
mm,
I'm tired for the day. I don't want to go out because I only get a couple hours of like energetic time,
mhm,
because of what's going on in my body right now. And I told her, I said, but I'm not down to any of this because I know physiotherapy can work. I know it
mhm.
can. It helps. But can you teach me how to functionally walk? Can you teach me how to functionally, like when I sit down, I don't want to get up. Like you don't want to get up. You want to get up like solid. You want to have that
Yeah,
stance. You want to, like throughout the day. You want to be mindful of how you position your body so that you're not sitting in the couch in a slump position and then wondering why your back hurt all night.
right.
Well, it's not your bed, it's how you're sitting, right?
Yeah.
So, just changing that thought process into that quick fix, what everybody wants to get, into a more mindful, ritualistic, ceremonialistic
Mhm,
aspect. Like if you want to go back to how our like really, really long ago ancestors did things, like everything was for a reason, or it
mhm.
seems like, right? Like they did things with a lot of thought and intention and awareness. And I think that that's what we're kind of all missing right now in some aspect.
Yeah, because we're also attached to our phones.
No, right?
Right?
Yeah, and if you're not
Like,
mindful about what you're putting on, because how everything is done nowadays, it really is what we consume. But
mhm,
it's so easy to be like, oh, click, click, oh, click, click, oh, click, click.
right?
And I'm like, because I watch my daughter on Instagram sometimes, and I'm like, you look at Instagram way differently than I do. I'm like, I go through and I know like ad, ad, ad. Yeah, that's an ad. Flip, flip. Oh, my day's done. Back to the top. I don't scroll past that. Um,
Interesting.
and that's where I ended. I don't like randomly like posts. Like I have to
Mm,
know like what's in my feed when I'm on Instagram. And
mm.
and that, like when I changed that, that was also probably due to ceremony too, because I changed that like in October or something like that, September, October time. So it would have
Oh,
been either right around the second one or just after the second one.
yeah.
I went through like a whole, I don't know who this person is on Instagram. I don't know who that is. Don't know why I follow them anymore, because
Right.
you know what? That's I don't connect with that anymore. So that's fine. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
who they are. Yep, I know who they are. And then I set it back up and I'm like, oh man, now what do I see in the morning? Inspirational quotes and my friends doing awesome shit.
Yeah.
Like, not necessarily awesome stuff, but like just sharing their life, right?
Hmm.
And that's ultimately what I want to see. So, and it's nice that if you're consistent with that, Instagram will follow it.
Yeah.
But if you're inconsistent with it and you're just like, oh, that's cool, oh, that's cool, oh, that's cool, it will keep
Yeah.
feeding you that, oh, that's cool, oh, that's cool. Whereas, yeah, I don't know, it takes some mental work sometimes too, I guess.
That's like the consumption, right? Like, what are the music that you're listening to? What are you looking on the internet? What foods are you putting into
Oh,
your body? What conversations are you having with the people around you? Like all of this is consumption, all of it.
music's been a big one that's changed since I started ceremony,
Tell me more. Oh my
right?
goodness. Yeah,
So
what?
I've always liked like instrumental, not necessarily classic instrumental, but like electronic-y, not really dance music, but I don't know what else to call it.
Mhm.
I like that. I've always kind of liked it, but like since ceremony, it's been like way more like kind of that I don't know, meditation-y music. I don't know what else to
Mhm.
call it.
Yeah.
Just stuff
Zen.
that kind of like sits into that frequency again, right?
Mhm.
And I think sound has played a really big part in the last few months or the last year,
Mhm.
solely because of ceremony,
Mm.
and getting some of the like playlists and then going, these aren't the same as sound bowls in person. They're close, but not the same. You know, and but then like if you actually sit down and take that intention to make a ritual and you know be in the vibe of that music,
Mhm.
you can really feel it and get an impact from it, like you're being back in ceremony.
Yeah.
Right, it was yeah, the music's definitely been a change. I used to listen to a little bit of like reggae stuff. I don't really listen to a whole lot. It's picky and choosy on it now.
Mhm.
But definitely more like, I don't know, I would almost call it like inspirational. I think the last one we were at with you, um, you played the I Am Enough or I Am that, right?
The
And
Whales
it's
of
like,
Light. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So good. And
Yeah.
then yeah, just like having that, like having a mantra. I think you even touched on one of your podcasts too, is having that like, I feel intimidated by it. I'll tell you this right now, but like I'm awesome. I'm gonna do an awesome, have an awesome day. I'm gonna go out and kick ass. Like that kind of like mentality, right from the get go with the day. I feel that power. I am that's still something that's pretty challenging for me.
Mm.
Because definitely never been the one to like stick my hand up. Well, I'll stick my hand up in some, but like in public or like be like, oh hey, I'm here if you need me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's been, yeah, that's been something that I've been trying to work on too.
Mhm.
But that's hard. It's not easy to to incorporate that power, right? Like to like step into that when you're not used to that feeling, right?
Mm. Practice. Honestly.
Yeah,
That's all
right.
that it is.
Well, any of it is, right? Running, doing the Wim Hof method,
Yeah.
walking, like making a point to walk your dog every day, right? It's all just practice.
I love that you chose Wim Hof for your first like breathwork thing as well, because that's like the sorry, I don't know what is happening. That is like a really intense versus like somatic. Somatic's like calm, right? And then you go into Wim Hof, and Wim Hof is like super intense and breath of fire and like let's get that belly and so good for you for choosing Wim Hof because it does intimidate a lot of people. So
I don't know if I necessarily chose Wim Hof. I think it chose me,
we were
because
shocked.
I know exactly what you're talking about with the somatic breathing. I had a chiropractor that was into that stuff, and she was super helpful too at the time. But when we would go to classes and try to do some of this breathing, I found it extremely difficult, and I found it hard to bring it home and incorporate it into my day.
Mm,
And that's where when I started with Wim Hof and his message of like, dude, just fucking breathe, like in your
right.
belly, in your chest, and let it go.
Mhm.
Like how much harder can you get? Like, yes, you can probably do it a little bit fraction better, and you'll get a little bit better out of it, but dude, just relax and like have intent breathing. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty much what any breath work is it not? It's just like, hey, I want you to follow this pattern or this this way of breathing so that you can help yourself. It's just like when you're taught to meditate in front of a flame. Like
Mm.
it's that's how I almost picture it. It's just like, hey, if you can make this a ritual in some way, and change your mindset of how you look at it, you're going to get deeper into things.
Hmm.
And that's just how I feel meditate, like how you evolve in meditation is you just keep on like going deeper into whatever, like I don't think it ever ends. I think you just keep going. You're like, hey, this is cool. Now I'm a
Yeah.
lighter, healthier, happier human being. And that isn't that what we're all trying to just do?
Yes.
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
That's like yoga practice, right? Like it's not a yoga, I don't even know, but it's a yoga practice. You do it, and even if you're an expert at it, it's still a practice. You're never fully like at the top, which is it keeps you humble, right?
Yeah. And the with ceremony and specifically with the mushrooms too, um incorporating that like that mindset into like the Wim Hof stuff where he starts
Mm.
telling you like, hey man, just take 20 deep breaths and then do this activity and you'll blow your mind. You'll do it even better. And you're like,
Hmm.
okay, are you just planting a seed in my head or like, can I actually do this? So
Is this a
like,
placebo?
right? So when I was a kid, when I was like, well, probably junior high, high school, I would do like push-ups and sit-ups every night for
Mm.
a while. And I found that like 25, maybe 30 push-ups, that's it. Like that's it. I'm done. That's awesome for me. That's cool. Sit-ups were a little different. Sit-ups they were a little easier. I start doing Wim Hof breathing and cold exposure for a while, and I think I started in December or January. It did a push-up challenge like on his app or whatever, and
Mm.
I'm like, 20 breaths, held my breath, went and did push-ups. The first time I've done push-ups in probably a couple of years. I
Yeah.
banged off 25 and I'm like, I probably could have kept going. It took like 3 or 4 days to get up to 45. And I was
Right?
like, how is this happening?
Yeah.
And then you're just like, well, whatever. It's the power of your mind. Like
Mm.
like that's what, if I've learned anything through ceremony, is this mind up here is exponentially more capable than you think it is.
100%.
And yeah, so I started doing push-ups. I was maintaining 100 push-ups a day
Mm.
for a while. I think I did like 1700 or something in January until my arm was just like, no, you're not doing anymore. Like your nerves suck. You know they've been hurting for like a couple weeks now. You got to stop. Like it's time to stop.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's cool. That's fine. Fine. What else can I do? Started doing planks. Planks were like maybe 45 seconds, a minute, and I would just be like before, like when we were running and stuff. 20 deep breaths, go and hold like a 145 plank, first plank I've done in like forever. I'm like, huh, what have I been doing differently? Like it's not like I'm doing like anything really differently. I'm just mindfully breathing and like
Hmm.
and putting more intention into the day, right?
Hmm.
And with that, like my upper abdominal muscles, like they're toned like I'm doing sit-ups. And I'm like, dude, I'm just like breathing. You have to breathe all day long. So why not incorporate that into your day and make yourself
Hmm.
stronger in the meantime? Like
Hmm.
when that started clicking and I'm like, what am I doing differently? And I'm like, oh, you're just breathing and you're just doing it more intently. And I'm like, damn, like seriously, no more sit-ups. No,
Hmm.
no more sit-ups. I'll just breathe. No
Yeah.
problem. Right.
Hmm.
So that's been another huge gain doing that. And headstands. Like I did is whatever he calls it, the upside down balance or something, or the backwards balance. I don't know. He like puts you into like a crow position. I did that for like I don't know, a month or so. And it puts you in basically like a headstand position just with your knees
Mm.
to your hands on your head, right?
Hmm.
And you sit there and I was like, I wonder if I can do a headstand. So I like followed what he said, put my hands on my head and went and got my feet in the air. And I'm like, holy shit, I can put my feet in the air and hold this for a couple seconds. That's a win.
Yeah.
And then you just kept on doing it and breathing through it. And yeah, I can hold it for 2 minutes. more if I want to.
Yeah.
I try to do that like every day because man, that upside down, that well, I don't know if it's like the blood reversal that he talks about, and
Mm.
getting that different kind of flow of blood through the vessels, or what it is, but like that couple minutes of inverted poses, that's been really nice too.
And
But like,
before we
oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
before we hop down, you're talking about how long you can hold your breath for now.
Good, yeah. So the first time, like I passed 3 minutes in December, so roughly like I'd say a month and a half or so after like really getting into it every day. And then in January sometime I passed 4 minutes, and that was like that was huge for me. I was like, I'm gonna celebrate this. This is pretty cool. But it also felt like I don't know, was I cheating? Did I take a breath in? Did I, like it just felt like 4 minutes just went like that.
Yeah.
It just, you get into that, like that mindfulness, and you just settle, and it's just like 4 minutes. It was crazy. And
Yeah.
then this past March, it was after the last ceremony we did together. I felt like after I recovered, because it takes me a couple days to kind of get
Mm.
better after ceremony, because you get pretty, like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And it takes me a couple days to kind of like fully recover and really get back into everything. But I think like a week or so after ceremony, I hit 4 minutes again. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then again, and I was like, damn. And I got to four minutes and 20 seconds in April. I think it was 4:20. I hit 4:20 on 4:20, right? Yeah.
Wow. Look
Um,
at you go.
and
I love it.
so that was pretty awesome. So I'm like, okay, this is no longer like something that only happens once or twice. Like I put a string of them together, which was pretty awesome. That felt pretty good. But it's definitely with that, like I think with that progress, you
Mm-hmm.
also expect it to continue to progress.
Hmm.
I think myself, I want it, I want it to keep going up.
Yeah.
I don't want to hit that peak and go down, or hit that peak and plateau and then just sit there, because I don't know if that's just not how I'm programmed, or
Mm-hmm.
that's how I was programmed. Not, this is how I choose to live, however
Mm-hmm.
you want to look at it. And I think that I have to deal with that when I drop off and have like if I hold my breath for under 2 minutes, I started feeling like, oh, I'm doing terrible. This is sucky. I only got 148 today for my first round, and I'm like, I
I'm
should be
lucky if
over
I can
two
hold my
minutes.
breath for a minute.
um, so yeah, so when I'm holding my breath and I get that, like that's definitely like I seriously listening to your podcast for a little while, and your mention of saboteur all the time, love it, because I'm like, yes, that makes sense, that hits home with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's you're just I don't like the word fighting. Maybe I'll come up with a better word for it eventually, but like you're just fighting yourself, right?
Hmm.
When you're doing this breath work. And if you can, like, for me, it was 35. I tried doing like 40, 45, 50 breaths before I held, because I thought the more you did, the longer you'd be able to hold it. And I find 35 is perfect for me.
Yeah.
And it was working, but yeah, just struggling with not having that like incremental ups. When you go
Mm.
down, I just feel like I need to figure out how to be okay with that. Like okay
Hmm.
with being like, oh hey, no, it's okay. You've done a lot the last couple days, or it's been a stressful month. Like it's all right that you didn't get to 3 minutes and 30 seconds today on your breath hold. It's gonna be okay
It's
tomorrow,
okay.
right? You're still doing great. Like I've always felt like you have to perform at like your max. Like
Hmm.
I've been into the Four Agreements book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been into that since like early 2000s, I guess. Like
Mm.
I'd read it, then put it away, and then be like, I never reread books, but I'll read that one and
Yeah.
reread it again and again and again.
Hmm.
And yeah, just the one that he says, just do your best.
Hmm.
Like not your best if you borrow energy from tomorrow, right? You
Yeah.
just do your best with what you have and what you've got in front of you,
Hmm.
and right, and be mindful. Like I think that's what ceremonies really cemented for me, is being aware of what you're doing,
Mm.
and that just makes, like, that makes everything more worth it, because if you're doing
Hmm.
something you're like, I fucking hate doing this, then like what are you doing? Like, put the rake down, go
Yeah.
inside, and have some water, get a snack, and then go do something else for a while if you don't like doing this,
Right. Yeah.
right? And I'm really hoping that if I do end up going back to work, um, that I like that's the one thing that I'm trying to cement in my mind already, is
Mm.
like, dude, if you get back and you're like, nope, because I already knew what I was doing wasn't serving me. It's like, it's
Hmm.
okay, and it's like, it's fun because I was good at it, but it's like, at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm just filling out forms. I'm
Right.
just a middleman transferring stuff so that somebody else can understand what this guy's trying to say.
Hmm.
Why we could make this so much more efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just put some effort into teaching people.
100%.
Anyways.
Wow. This has been so great. We are definitely at an hour.
Yep.
So this has been very informative, and I love all your input on the ceremonies. So if you're open for people finding you on the gram, do you care to share your handle?
Sure. I think I'm just at Granden Bertrand.
Okay.
I'm sure you can share that in the notes down below.
I sure will.
I've done some pretty cool cold dips this year.
Yeah.
Been pretty excited about those. I'm just waiting for the water to go down a little bit more. But we've got a couple really cool waterfalls that were like kind of like sidelined. So you can like
Mm.
walk into a little tunnel and then go into a little pool on like at the top or middle of the falls.
Hmm.
So those are definitely ones that are on my list that I've always been like, that would be cool to go in there, but I am not going to go touch the water. It's fine. And now I just, yeah, look at them differently and I'm like, yes, I need to go there. We need to go there this year again.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, if anything resonates with anyone with the medical background, well, the things that you've gone through, and then the ceremony stuff, like reach out. I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you have a lot of knowledge. Okay, before I let everyone go, as you know, I always ask a question. And ooh, that's interesting. If you could go back to your 13-year-old self, what would you tell him?
This is funny. So I've been hoping that you pick a little bit older age.
I
So
told
this
you, it
is
just comes
this is
through.
awesome. It does. And honestly, you didn't set me up for this one. This is just happening, which is awesome. I really like that. 13 years old. Um, I think just be easier on yourself.
Hmm.
You're like, you're still doing good. Um, and I think take the time out to appreciate those wins.
Hmm.
Um, because I definitely talk about like the words that you use to tell your story. And I know that when I talk about my past sometimes, or some places in my past, that they have come out to be a little bit on the negative side,
Hmm.
instead of being like, oh, hey, wait a minute, there were some pretty cool wins and we did some cool things there. So
Yeah.
maybe we can like swap those out and see how that goes for us. Yeah, just to give myself a little bit more self-love. So don't lose that self-love. It's
Yeah.
important.
So important. Awesome. Thank you so much, Granden. I love this episode and I'm so excited to bring it out to the world. So thank you for your time and your energy. And thank you so much for allowing me to hold space with you on your journey.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Jess. This has been awesome.